It's good day to brew, baby. What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Millsy. Back with Talking Matter, back for another episode of Millsy Brews, the show where I brew my version 1.0 deck list of the commander in front of us on my quest out brew the magic. Well, you know the motto, baby. It's ABB, always be brewing it. That's what we're back to do today. The deck list is going to be down in the description for you below. So I'd really appreciate it if you could interact with the video. Like, comment, subscribe. Consider checking out the links in the description. The Discord's been popping. I'd love for you to come join. But today, we're continuing with our little Ganax background experiment, and today we're doing an Is It build with Ganax and Feywild Visitor, a background that says commanded creatures we own have whenever one or more non-token creatures deal combat damage to a player, we make a 1/1 fairy dragon. This is important with Ganax because Ganax does not put any limit on the dragons that come in, doesn't care if they're token or non-token. So it means with Feywild Visitor, we should be able to get up to 3 treasures each combat, which is a huge deal. Because not only do we want treasures for casting spells in our big dragons, but there are ways to take multiple combats if you have certain amounts of mana on both dragons and enchantments, and 3 treasures a combat really helps us make that more attainable. So let's get into it, and let's enjoy talking about some Is It Dragons. I want to say a quick thank you to the members of the channel. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. If you're interested in seeing all of our videos just a little bit early for just $1 a month, check out that link down below. Well, all right. Being an Is It, of course, we only have certain options as far as our dragons go, right? We have all of our red dragons, which is great. Dragons are centered in red, so we're going to have lots of great options. But adding in blue, there's a little bit less options than if you were to go into Gruul, right? The most popular, probably dragon, 2-color dragon color. But in blue, we do get access to some big dragons. I will say, notably, I had to cut Silver Dragon just for its cost. It's a great dragon, and I really like the idea of it. But I had to choose my big dragons wisely because of our value, and I still chose Astral Dragon. It's a dragon I really like. It has a lot of combo potential. When it comes in, you pick 2, you get 2 tokens that are a copy of a non-creature and permanent on the battlefield. Just accept their 3/3s. Doesn't have to be your permanent. You just get 2 copies of them. Of course, there's a lot of combos with Astral Dragon when it comes to token doublers, but I think Astral Dragon is going to get us a key copies of a key permanent. Things like Dragon Tempest or some of the other things we'll talk about a little bit later, and just be real value for us down the line. Cavern Horde Dragon's a big 6/6 that can come down for even cheaper depending on how many artifacts an opponent controls, and then whenever it hits a player, we make a treasure for each artifact they control. This is a really nice ability, especially as we'll talk about how we're going to use our treasures for more value than just mana in netting treasures per turn as we hit our opponents. And the nice thing about Cavern Horde is it does have haste, so it can get involved the turn it comes down. Furcrag is probably one of the other most popular Is It Dragon options. Came out in Baldur's Gate. Whenever one or more of our dragons hit an opponent, we go to a creature that player controls. And then whenever a creature deals combat damage to one of our opponents, if that creature had to attack, we put a counter on Furcrag and draw a card. So as those goad creatures hit, right, we get to draw cards and grow Furcrag. Playing a pretty great lineup of dragons that care about treasures. Goldlust Triad makes one when it hits and gives you Myriad to get multiple hits per turn. Goldspan Dragon makes a treasure when it attacks and lets all of our treasures sack for 2 mana instead of 1. A very key ability, especially as we start, right, really hoarding up these treasures for ourselves. Feels very thematic there, doesn't it? And then Hellkite Tyrant, whenever it hits a player, we gain control of all artifacts that players control. But the big one is, at the start of our turn, if we have 20 or more artifacts, we win the game. So if we can manage to amass enough treasures, there's an option to win the game. You'll see this type of ability is a little bit easier in the Haunted One brew. The next one, Ganax brew, we're going to talk about in black. You have things like Revels and Riches that makes this idea a little bit easier, but I like that we still have access to that ability in other colors. I'd say probably other popular Is It Dragons commander is going to be Sarkhan Soulflame. It's going to reduce all our dragons a little bit, and then whenever another dragon comes in, we can have Sarkhan become a copy of it, except it keeps its name. This is really huge because Sarkhan then can become a copy of Ganax the turn it comes in. It can become a copy of a lot of other key dragons for a turn, allowing us to get some nice value right as we go. Lathless works really well with Ganax because Ganax doesn't care whether those dragons coming in are tokens or non-tokens. So Lathless makes us a token whenever another non-token dragon comes in, just allowing us to get a bunch of treasures, right? 2 treasures per dragon we put in. It's important that Lathless doesn't say any dragon, because otherwise it would literally go infinite with itself, and then, that would be bad. But Lathos adds a ton of value to our deck. Meringue River Regent's a dragon that I'm high on. I don't see a lot of other people being high on it, but the thing I like about Meringue a ton is you have a draw spell on its Omen, which is nice to have, especially if you need it. But then when it comes in, you just bounce 2 permanents. And we have some ways in the deck to copy dragons either on the battlefield or as we cast them, and so then you potentially can bounce up to 4 permanents. Note that it doesn't have to bounce your opponent's permanents. It could bounce ours if we want them to, if we care about that. So Meringue has a bunch of potential for that. Scourge of the Throne has a potential to get us in extra combat if we're attacking the player with the highest life total. Scourge of Valkis is going to work hand in hand with Dragon Tempest as being 2 copies of basically the same effect. Whenever a dragon comes in, it deals X to any target, where X is the number of dragons we control. A nice ability to either pick off key creatures, key permanents, or just start damaging our opponents in the process. Tear the Peaks deals out damage, but instead of it being the number of dragons we have, it's the power of the creature that came in. A very nice ability as we're making tokens and casting dragons, right? Just spamming all that damage out, whether it be at key creatures or players, just doling that damage out to be better for us. Thundermane Dragon lets us cast creatures with power 4 greater off the top of our library, which is most of our dragons in the deck. And if we do it that way, they get haste. We also get to look at the top card of our library, just know what's coming next. And Thundermane is just a great dragon in so many dragon decks. Utvara is just as useful as Lathless in our deck. Instead of making dragon tokens when dragons come in, Utvara Hellkite makes tokens whenever dragons attack, just allowing us to get some treasures on attack. We'll talk about some of our combats shenanigans later, and Utvara Hellkite's a great piece in that as well. And then Wrathful Red Dragon's a really fun protection piece. Whenever a dragon we control is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to a target that isn't a dragon. The main interaction with this card is board wipes like Blasphemous Act that deal damage to every creature are going to be very dangerous with Red Dragon out, right? We can deal out a ton of damage, whether we choose to do it because we are playing Blasphemous Act in the deck, or an opponent chooses to do a damage-based board wipe. It can give some value back. It's not going to work on the Destroy, it's not going to work on the Exile, it's not going to work on the -X board wipes, but it will at least help with Blasphemous Act, which is one of the most popular board wipes in our format, especially in red. So it's cool to have this as a nice failsafe to really just hurt an opponent if they do. But of course we have the dragons, so let's pay off the fact that we have them. Invasion of Tarkir is a card you're going to see in a lot of dragon decks, because both of its sides are just good. On the front side, you get to dole out some damage, where its X is the number of dragons you reveal from your hand, plus 2 damage to any target. And then on the backside, whenever a dragon you control attacks, it deals 2 damage. This ability works really nice with Feywild, right? Because Feywild is going to make us a bunch of 1/1 dragons. Well, when they attack, they're going to hit even harder, right? Pinging that damage out. Crucible of Fire is going to make all those 1/1s 4/4s and all of our other dragons even bigger. A great use of 4 mana for us. Dragon Tempest, there's that other half of the Scourge of Valkis idea, dealing damage when dragons come in, except we add that dragons get haste, creatures we control with flying get haste when they come in. This is a little bit important in a couple slides when we talk about our way to take multiple combats, because then those fairies will actually be able to attack because they have haste that turn. Kindred Discovery, whenever a dragon comes in or a dragon attacks, we draw a card, just refilling our hand using all that mana we're going to get from hopefully multiple fairies coming in per turn. And then Shared Animosity, right? Those 1/1 dragons start as 1/1s. With Shared Animosity, hopefully they can become 6/6s or 6/1s or 7/1s during those combats as they're attacking with other dragons, making our other dragons better and making those fairy dragons better as well. But I think we want to pay off the fact we're going to have a ton of treasures coming in, right? And we're in great colors for it, because now we have access to the blue. So there's some blue abilities that care about treasures. But we have our pair of Magdas. Both of them have abilities that allow us to sacrifice a certain number of treasures to go get something. On Brazen Outlaw, we get to just go get any artifact or dragon of our choice. A great ability, especially if we want a certain dragon at the right time. And Horde Master just makes us a 4/4 dragon token, which isn't a bad idea. If you really needed them, they come in with haste, and depending on what you have going, they would at least get you 1 treasure back. There's a lot of ways we can take advantage of that Magda, but I think Brazen Outlaw is the better one, going to get us the right dragon from our deck. We're playing things like Reckless Fireweaver to do damage to each opponent whenever an artifact comes in. Again, we're going to be making hopefully at least 3 treasures per combat, which is just some damage we can dole out. Zorn, if we would make a treasure, we make that many treasures +1. Again, a great ability to allow us to get some extra treasures each time. Because Ganax would see every dragon coming in individually, that means Zorn plus Ganax and Feywild Visitor is going to be 6 treasures instead of 3, which is really cool. Rise and Shine would basically let us turn all of our treasures into creatures for a turn. I just realized it's not for the turn, it's just forever. But again, it's a great way if we have 10 or 12 treasures sitting around for 6 mana, just turn them all into 4/4s and make them a big deal to our opponents as we attack in with them. Alchemist Talent, right? One of those classes from Bloomborough, feels really great in this deck. Level 2 lets all of our treasures sack for 2 mana, just like Goldspan Dragon. And then at level 3, whenever we cast a spell, if we spent mana from a treasure, it just deals damage equal to that spell's mana value to each opponent. Just chunking out damage, which is great because it's going to pair really well with all that combat damage we can do. Rain of Riches, when it comes in, you make 2 treasures, and then the first spell you cast each turn that had mana from a treasure gets Cascade. Again, really helpful because our dragons are higher up on the mana scale, so a lot of our deck's going to be able to be hit from Cascade on our dragons. And then Storm the Vault's just a really nice option. Whenever one of our creatures we control hit a player, we make a treasure. At the beginning of our end step, if we have 5 or more artifacts, we flip it over, and it turns into a land that can tap for a blue for each artifact we control, effectively for each treasure we control, just doubling our mana, making it huge, and really taking advantage of all these treasures we have to cast more things, use it for more things, and allow us to net a ton more mana in a turn. And you may ask yourself, why would you want to net a ton of mana in a turn? And mainly it's for something like Aggravated Assault. Yes, it could be to just dump dragons from our hand onto the battlefield, right? Another very useful thing with Ganax. But Aggravated Assault is a card you're going to see in a lot of decks when it comes to taking extra combats, because it's pretty easy to do with Aggravated Assault. You just pay 5 mana and just take an extra combat. Remember that Ganax is netting us 3 treasures if we can hit all 3 of our opponents in a combat. Well, that's 3 of the 5 mana. We've just got to figure out a way to pay the other 2, right? And we're good to go. And the answer is there's a lot of ways to do that. If you have mana left over at all, you know that you get 3 mana back each combat, so you can do math on how many combats it's going to take. We have things like Reaver Cleaver that can make us more treasures if a creature hits somebody. Remember that we talked about something like Zorn, affecting the amount of treasures we make each time. So that's an option there. We have other dragons that can make treasures when they attack or when they hit a player. Well, there you go. Now you're getting more treasures each time. It's not going to be very hard to hit 5 for Aggravated Assault. It's just getting Aggravated Assault that's going to be the problem. But you have to remember that we don't need Aggravated Assault. We're a dragon deck, meaning we're going to be in the air. And if our opponents aren't in the air, it means hopefully we're going to have a great time hitting our opponents down. We can use things like Frostcliff Siege to give our creatures trample and haste, meaning those fairy dragons then can come in and attack the next combat. And there's probably a world where, even if you only have a couple dragons out in an Aggravated Assault, if you have any way to give those fairy dragons that you're making off Feywild haste, it isn't going to take very long to take over a game and just hit our opponents and just deal big damage over the course of multiple combats, even if you just only have one, right, standard combat. But I've said it before on the show, and I'll say it again. No deck's ever complete. This is my version 1.0 shot at Ganax and Feywild. And going into testing, I think I'd really want to see, what other options are out there for me. I love the idea of something like Twin Flame Tyrant. I didn't put it in the deck just due to its cost. We try to sit in a budget here on this show, and I knew that some of our big dragons were going to have to go. I didn't even put Ancient Copper Dragon on this list because it's a $100 card, and if you want Copper Dragon, you're going to buy Copper Dragon. It's a great dragon. Same thing with Ancient Silver Dragon sitting at $30. They're both great dragons, and if you want them, get them. But I was trying to keep it more on theme and attainable. Erase the Palisade is a card I really love. I think it makes a ton of sense in this deck since we can call Dragon and just bounce the rest of the board back. But we are playing a ton of interaction in our deck as well. We have counterplay, we have things like that. So we don't always need a card like Raise the Palisade, but I think it could make a ton of sense if we just push the budget up by a little bit. And then Mana Echoes is actually a card that I have in both the other, I believe, of the Ganax decks we're looking at this week. I didn't put it in this one because I thought maybe the Fairy Dragons would be enough with Ganax to get enough treasures each turn, but if not, we have things like Molten Echoes or Flame Shadow Conjuring that can make copies of dragons as they come in, allowing you to get multiple treasures right per dragon that comes in, and just allowing us to profit more from our dragons coming in, leading to bigger and better turns. I think of the 3 of these, Molten's probably the one I would bring back in immediately. I really like this card, and I think in a deck like this, it's going to be really beneficial. But hey, this is why decks aren't perfect, is because we get a chance to learn, iterate, and I guess I accidentally hit draw there again. Iterate, make our decks better, and understand what our decks are trying to do. But let's get into our playtest. Remember, the goal of playtest at our channel is not to find Magical Christmas Land. It's not to show off all our best plays, but it's to get in some gameplay scenarios and understand how do we function? How do we build our board state from the start? And what do we look for? Here we're keeping a 4-lander with that shared animosity, Stormscale Scion, and Utvara. Turn 1 there, we see a Stubborn Denial. Counters non-creature spell unless they pay 1. Or if we have to, or if we control creature's power 4 greater, just counter that spell instead. I don't think there's anything for us to do on 2. I think the key thing to remember here is if we have nothing better to do, Feywild Visitor is 3. Remember, they both need to be out in order for us to use that ability. So here it's either the Animosity or the Visitor, but truthfully, I don't think either matter because I was going to say, unless we draw something key here on turn 4, I don't think I'm doing anything different. I think I'm just playing the other one, right? And then turn 5, we'll play Ganax. Comes in, gets us a treasure. Now we have both of our pieces online. Again, Ganax doesn't have haste, but that's A-okay. We're going to try to work our way this turn towards being able to do some damage. Alchemist Talent can come in and give us a couple treasures. At the moment, we only have 1 dragon that can attack, right? Because neither of these could come in and attack this turn. Although Vara Hellkite could give us a another dragon this turn, but the problem is we only have 7 mana right now, and we would need 8 for it, so it doesn't seem like it's a good option. The talent would leave me with 3 mana, 2 treasures being tapped. I don't mind doing that. And then I'm thinking just attack, make the fairy, and then the treasure. And I think I'm golden there. Come back to our turn with just a teeny bit more mana, right? So now we're at 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 mana, right? We could tick up the talent if we want, put 2 into it just to make our treasures be able to go for a little bit more. If I do that, now it's 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13 mana. You'll be looking at pretty darn close to both of these, especially once you have a dragon come in. So that might even make more sense to me. All right, tick it up for the 2. Use 2, 4, 6, 8. Use 8 of it for Vara Hellkite, right? That makes me a treasure. So now I'm at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana. Stormscale Scion is 6. So 2, 6. And then I cast 1 spell before Stormscale Scion, so it's going to bring in 1 of itself. So we're going to get 2 treasures there, right? Now I have 2 dragons that can attack this turn. Both of them attack, making me 6/6 dragons, right, with Utvara's ability, which is 2 more treasures. And then, I have the fairy dragon. But remember, Feywild Visitor, so that's actually going to be a 3rd one. Remember, Feywild only gives me the dragon when a non-token creature hits. But I still don't think it matters, right? We still only get 2 treasures, but now we're just absolutely... we're just absolutely swimming in treasures, right? All of our dragons have +2/+2 right now because of the Stormscale Scion. So this is a 3/3, right? And we've got some good damage this turn. And I was going to say, if nobody has any response now, we've got a huge amount of dragons. There's the Dragon's Crucible Fire just to make it worse. Truthfully, we had a mana left up. We had the Stubborn Denial if we needed it. But now our opponents are just in trouble. You've got a 6/6 attacking everybody. That would be a 11/11 with Crucible of Fire and the Stormscale's out. We have all these dragons. And then, we've got all these 1/1s who've still got shared animosity, right, buffing them up. This is just a great board of dragons. And we've got this Stubborn Denial for a little bit of protection as we hopefully can just continue to attack into our opponents. But let's get in playtest number 2. Keeping a 4-lander with Soul Ring. There's the Storm in the Vault and then Invasion of Tarkir. So not a bad start. Aggravated Assault. Nice. What a great way to start. We don't have any of the dragons just quite yet, but I think that's okay. We're going to work our way up. Wouldn't be a bad turn to Windfall. The question is, what do we give up for it? I like the lands. I can't do X0 for Invasion of Tarkir. So it's like, I can't do that right now. I could play the Feywild Visitor, but if I did this, I could play the Storm the Vault. If I do this, I guess I could get Ag Assault down. Just get myself another turn to see what we get into. There we see Irenicus. Irenicus isn't bad. This makes us a treasure. Irenicus makes a copy of a legendary creature, or makes a copy of a creature, except the creature copy isn't legendary. That's really nice, right, to get a 2nd copy of Ganax. Ooh, Astral Dragon's fun. I there's just nothing key right now I want to copy. We can copy Aggravated Assault. The problem is it just doesn't net me anything. I think right now the thing I'd want to copy the most is Soul Ring, just for the more mana. But my thought here is, what do I do here? What? Feywild and then copy Ganax? That would use me up the treasure, but I'd get a treasure for the Ganax coming in and the other Ganax seeing it. Attack with the real one with Feywild. Get 2 more treasures, right? Because we have 2 Ganaxes in now. I guess I could storm the vault if I want to. I'm like 1 mana away from this being really good, right? And getting getting more this turn, right? But that's okay. I think it's worth it because now we come into our next turn. If nobody's managed to deal with this, we're now going to have enough, I think, every turn to just do this. We can get the Storm the Vault in with our regular mana just now because this is going to give us a couple extra treasures this turn. Actually, because if we never hit the end step, this is going to keep giving us 3 treasures per turn, right? Until we go to our end step. So right now, I have 3 dragons. If all 3 of them can hit through unobstructed, I think we have this Ag Assault combo, right? Because it's 3 on attack. There's my 5, right? I can only do that sorcery speed. We do that after combat. Make 2 more fairy dragons, 2 more treasures, or sorry, 4 more treasures, right? Because we have the 2 Ganaxes. Now we have more than enough for the next combat. The only thing is just these guys don't have haste, so it's going to be all with these Ganaxes and this fairy dragon. But again, I don't think we mind. I still had that 2 mana left, so we could even, bring in the Astral Dragon as a copy of something else. But again, the point is we now just have the infinite combats loop, and that's what's so good about Aggravated Assault. As long as you have enough attackers, right, and can make enough of those treasures, right, we can really get in there and have some fun. Let's get into playtest number 3. A 3-lander with Zorn, Terror of the Peaks. There's Lathless, and then an Izzet Signet. It's not too bad of a start. We've got these signets, right, work our way up there. Here, I think I'm just playing Zorn, right? That was so next way when Ganax comes in, right, it's getting us an extra treasure. Right, so now instead of Ganax making us 1 when it comes in, it's making us 2, right? That's why I think Zorn is so useful, especially for Ganax. So now with 6 mana, Lathless doesn't feel like a bad idea to start making more dragons in the future. If somebody has enough for Cavern Horde, I mean, Cavern Horde could be really worth it this turn to come in and deal some big damage. But I kind of just like Lathless making 2 more treasures. It might be a world where somebody has enough artifacts for Cavern Horde to come in for cheap. But I don't think we mind. I mean, we set up a good amount there with the double treasures. Now Lathless is going to make us more treasures as creatures come in. So now with 7 mana, I mean, I think the Cavern is more than likely going to come in now as a creature, or be able to get it down for 7 mana, hopefully, if not less. That right with Lathless will make its token. There's 1 for that one, 1 for the next one, right? So it's 2 treasures per dragon now, right? So we're really just getting stuff in. Well then worth paying the Terror now, because now Terror comes in. It doesn't trigger for it, but this dragon would trigger it, right? Dealing out some damage. Back up to 7 treasures. I wish I had a way to give this haste, but that's okay. I think I just attack up. Oh, we can play the Feywild, right? Might as well. Attack up, right? 1, 2, 3 attackers this turn. So we have a chance to get all 3 dragons and 6 treasures, right? All those 3 will damage for Terror of the Peaks, but it's fine. I mean, now at this point, we just try to untap and have some fun, right? If somebody doesn't, this might have even given us some treasures off its attack, right? If we hit the person that we reduced for, we could have gotten more treasures. Truthfully, it stinks that none of these dragons have haste, but play the invasion, dome somebody for X+2, so 4 damage. We could dump all of our treasures in Lathless if we want to. 1, 2, 3. It's 4 at the moment. It could be even bigger once we get all our dragons in. Because they get the +1/+0 until end of turn. So Lathless could even be fun with Aggravated Assault if we saw it at the right time. But I've got 5 regular mana left in the treasures. Thinking what? Scourge. Which we'd have to use 1 treasure for. I think I'm just going to consolidate these to make it easier for... so we know what we have. And then, right, we go to combat. All of our dragons attack. We're getting at least 3 fairy dragons. 6 more treasures. We could for sure get this guy to flip over, making us, well, these both would have made us a 5/5 dragon, right? So 3. I think we're up to like 15 treasures by my count. So we're swimming in mana at this point. Again, maybe it's worth just dumping them into Lathless, but like, if not, I mean, another turn is going to be more than enough as long as somebody wipes the board. Again, you're getting damage from Terror on each of these 5/5s coming in. Maybe that's a reason to just dump all the dragons in our hand. But I think overall we kind of saw what we wanted to see there. Let's do one more playtest. Keep it a 4-lander here with Soul Ring, Reaver Cleaver, and Prismari Command. So Prismari Command can start digging for some more cards with its draw ability. There's the Rise and Shine. I don't mind Reaver Cleaver here, just because then this turn we can play Ganax, right? And look to equip it on a future turn, or one of our other, right, creatures to start getting in. So here we're at 7 mana. I like Furcrag. It's 3 to equip the Cleaver. I go 3 for the Feywild, and I go 3 to equip. We'd have a 4/5 Ganax, making us 4 treasures this turn on attack. That doesn't seem like a bad idea. So I'll do this just so we can do this for the purposes of making it easier. We'd get 1 Fairy Dragon, which is another treasure, and then we'd get 4 on damage, right? So now we got a nice stack of treasures. I almost like the idea of just burning them for Furcrag, just to get another creature in, I guess, for the next turn. Now to this turn, well, there's Cavern Horde. Cavern Horde might even be able to get us some value. I'm 1 mana off of Astral Dragon. Astral Dragon wouldn't be bad to come in and copy something, but the problem is the Reaver Cleaver's legendary, so we can't do that. Maybe our opponent would have something. Let's crack the Prismari Command. I'll make a treasure and then just draw 2, pitch 2. Let's see what we can get ourselves into. We're probably good on mana. Parafet could be fun this turn, getting us its ability. Rise and Shine, I feel like we'll be able to work up our way towards pretty easily. Right? Play the Parafet. Attack with these 2, right? That's 2 fairies, 2 tokens. Ganax making 4 with the Reaver Cleaver, and then Furcrag would goad something. Parafet Thrasher would go off. We could do 4 damage to each other person and exile the top just to see what we get. I'll happily pay the 2 treasures for Magda just to have the option of having some more on a future turn. Coming to the next turn, Cavern Horde should be able to come down for... we have 6 mana there. I'm sure it's going to be able to come down for it with our opponents having their own things. I could Rise and Shine to get the treasures up, but I kind of like just the idea of attacking. Now I've got 3 dragons to really get all the Feywilds to go off here. We could sack the 6 treasures to get 2 Scorpion Dragons if we want to. Would net us 2 more treasures and would have 2 more bodies on the field if we want to. That could be kind of fun. They get to attack this turn, right? So we would just go 6 down to 2, right? But we'd have just more bodies on the field to attack this turn. Hopefully Cavern Horde can make us some treasures. And I feel like we're in not as sexy of a spot as we were on that Ag Assault game, but I feel like we're still in a good spot. Furcrag's going to be goading things, probably drawing us more cards that we just didn't account for. We could always windfall this turn, get rid of like a Rise and Shine if we don't want to, if we want to pretty consistently be using our mana. But my thought here is this turn, 3 more Fairy Dragons, 3 more tokens there, and then at least 4 more from Ganax. We could always move the Reaver Cleaver over to Cameron Horn Dragon if we want to get, 6 per turn instead of, or 7 per turn instead of 4. And I think you can start to see where this system's just going to be good unless somebody removes our board, right? But I think that's what most Dragon decks are going to be the greatest at. But let me know, what do you think of Ganax Feywild? Again, I like the idea of this make them on attack. You get access to a little bit different things. I think so far my favorite's probably Acolyte that we did earlier today, or that came out today as well. But again, I like this Ganax idea. Ganax is a really great dragon in other dragon decks. If it's not in yours, I would consider putting it in yours because it's a very great value piece. I'd love to hear what you think of Ganax Feywild, and I will catch you on the next one.